I'm going to pull up a purchase order and we'll talk through that. From the purchasing side of transactions, I have a purchase quote, I have a purchase order, and I have a purchase invoice. So that's the terminology that Dynamics 365 uses. The first thing you'll notice is I come into a list. So anytime I start looking at transactions or master records, I'm going to come into a list. These lists are customizable. So if I come up here and I say personalize, this is throughout the application. I can customize or personalize actually any of these windows. Didn't come up. All right, so what this allows me to do is, as an end user, I can do things like add fields to a page. So these fields are all available to me. If I want the posting date added to this window, I can click on it and drag and drop the additional fields that I would want added to my view and drop them onto my view. I also could take them off. So if I didn't like a particular field, I can remove it, click done. And now this page has been customized for me as an end user. We have the ability, if you would like to make page modifications like that, and they could be globally set. So if you want to pull things on or off, or again, just allow users to do what they can. So that functionality is true throughout the application. All right, I'm going to pull up this Graphics Design Institute transaction and just show you a little bit about entering a purchase order. So I can select my vendor. We do have a full contact management system on both the payables and the receivables side if you want to, but I would select my vendor. That's essentially all I need to do. There's the Show More button, which I expand just to talk a little bit about some other feature functionality that we've got in the system. I've got a lot of dates that are available to me. I can do alternative vendors and I can do different forecasting and that sort of stuff on the inventory side to help create these transactions. But that in general is just select my vendor. In terms of what I can buy GLI or inventory items. So that's what this example is. I'm buying a chair. I can also buy things with a GL account. So what that allows me to do is to still have all the feature functionality that I would as if I was buying an inventory item, like a receiving process, like a matching process, except I'm buying a GL account number. So that could be service, it could be non-stock office supplies, that sort of thing. It just determines what expense account it's going to go to versus using an inventory item to do that. I can add fixed assets here. A charge item, what a charge item allows me to do is to do landed cost. So a charge item would allow me to put a transaction into the system and then affect a previously posted cost layer of inventory. And then comments are just comments that I can put on a transaction. All right, go across the line item here so we can talk about some additional functionality. I do have a full warehouse management option within the application. The nice thing about Business Central is this will grow with you. So if I do not need warehouse management, that's fine. We just take location code off this page and users don't know about it. If you need locations, we can set up as many locations as you want. Each location is configurable. And in terms of what warehouse management can do is it can be as simple as just noting a location, but I can track inventory at multiple locations. We can add bin tracking if you want to, and then we do have a full directed pick, directed put away system that could be implemented. So a lot of features if you need them. If you don't need them, location code can be an optional field. So I have a quantity on my line item. And then I have this reservation quantity. Interesting feature about Dynamics 365 is a reservation capability. So I have the ability to reserve inventory. So if I'm putting a sales order in and I want a future PO to be tied to a sales order, I can reserve that inventory. We do have assemblies as well as a full manufacturing system within the product that's available. Reservations will also work to those. So if I've got a manufacturing order or if I have an assembly order in the system, I can tie the material requirements for those orders to incoming purchase orders, and I would see then a reserved quantity. Costing and tax, so we've got all the costing stuff. We can do vendor pricing, vendor catalogs if you want to, and then we have the full tax capability both on the purchasing side and on the sales side, depending what you need. If you've got a lot of tax needs, there also is a integration with Avalara, great tax service that can take care of those things. All right, so quantity received, quantity invoice, quantity invoiced. You notice I've got 10 a quantity of 10 on my item here, and then I've got a quantity receive of 10 and quantity to invoice of 10. What the system can do is I can actually post, and if I would hit this post button up here, I'll show you. I can do my receiving and my invoicing all from my purchase order. So if you're an organization that just wants to simplify the process, I can do it all right from the purchase order. We also have the ability then to layer warehouse management functionality on this. So if I want to go through a receiving process and a separate matching process, we can set it up so that the purchase order can't be received against, and it would require, if I go up under here to actions, it would require a warehouse receipt, for example, that says somebody in the warehouse has to do a receiving transaction against this purchase order. I can't receive against it right from the purchase order. Again, what it's showing you is that the system can grow with you. So if you have a particular warehouse, for example, that requires receiving, but another one that doesn't, you can mix and match the functionality. You can start out not needing to do a receiving document. And if your organization grows to the point where you need to create receiving documents, great. You can add that functionality in. In terms of warehouse management, that also can be layered. So if you grow into needing bins and then you grow into directed picks and directed putaways, that's fine. The system will grow with you as you need it to be. All right, so again, I can receive and post against here, and then I've got all these dates again at the document level. The system is fully multi-currency enabled. I've actually shut it off on this one. I'm sorry about that. But I have the ability by vendor, by customer, by transaction to change the currency. There are some functions that I can go get a live feed of exchange rates, for example, and I can operate really in any currency I want by transaction. So fully multi-currency enabled. Just draw your attention up to the top here. We do have the ability to do drop ships. So drop ship functionality that would tie a sales order to a purchase order is built into the system. And incoming documents, we've got the ability to not only attach documents, but deal with incoming documents as far as optical character recognition applications, so OCR functionality. That's a service you'd have to pay for, but the system will receive an incoming live feed of documents that have been sent to the service electronically. They'll automatically be created in the system for you to review. So that's also the things that could happen around an incoming document. The send button up here, we do have the ability to send documents to Outlook, and that's an integration back and forth to Outlook. So in terms of purchase orders, sales orders, all that stuff can be emailed out leveraging this send option. Report outputs, just talk about that briefly. Report outputs can go to Word, Excel, PDF, if you want to go that way. The email capability has the option of either taking the report output and embedding it as the body of the email, setting up a PDF attachment and attaching the file on the email, or doing both. So again, those are all configurable options within the application. All right. When the PO is completely done, I would post it, and it's going to create a purchase invoice. Talk briefly about the purchase invoice. You'll notice that the purchase invoice is identical to the purchase order, and that's intentional. So things that I can do on a purchase order, I can do identical things on a purchase invoice. So I can buy GL accounts transactions, I can buy items, fixed assets, and charge items. The only difference really between a purchase order and a purchase invoice is the purchase order allows me to do the receiving and the matching. The purchase invoice just processes the transaction. So I don't need a purchase order. I can go directly to a purchase invoice to buy inventory if I want to. So if you're the type of organization that just gets an invoice and I basically do my receiving and everything, I can do that using a purchase invoice, not needing a purchase order. I can mix and match this. So if some transactions require it, some don't, I can use it or not use it. Here my currency code did show up, so I can show you that that is enabled throughout the application. All right, so the purchase order looks exactly like the purchase invoice. Just draw your attention up here to the flow. So within the application, I have the ability to do approvals, send approvals, do the approval request, et cetera, and that would be within Business Central. I also have the ability to integrate with Flow, and Flow is a Microsoft Office product that would allow me to send notifications to Outlook, and then, or my email system, and then allow me to do those approvals right within Outlook. So this example here, I've got a pending approval setting out here for a purchase invoice totaling $78. I can approve and reject the transaction using Flow right within Outlook. So another nice application. These approvals will still work without using Flow, but again, I just have the option of using Flow.